Today we have the whiteboard out. This is a training video. This video's main focus is to help security and non-security personnel learn how to collaborate with each other. Many times security gets called and they can't do anything because they were the wrong person to call for certain situations. And then people say, you see, security doesn't do anything. This is what this video is about. Who am I? What am I doing with this channel? My name is Jay Gutierrez. I did security for 5 years. I'm originally from New York. While there, I worked in many different posts, many different sites. I got certified in AED, first responder, right? As well as fire life safety director, and got trained and certified as a New York State security guard instructor. Didn't get my license though, because the vid happened and I moved, but I had my certification and my training. And now I live in Pennsylvania, armed security, Act 235 licensed. And I just have this channel to pretty much help security guards keep training, stay safe, and make it somewhere near $50,000 a year. Because, some people need career advice. They like being security guards and they want to know how to maneuver. And I can help you cut the learning curve in half easily. When should a teacher call security? Remember, these 5 bullet points are pretty much universal. So just change the title of teacher to something else and you'll be fine. So the first bullet point, trespassing. Let's say you work in a facility that's sensitive, right? Let's say you work at a school, because we're using a school theme here. Yeah, you work in a private school for private park. And there's some locals that you don't recognize sitting in the bench of your private park. It's recess. Or, there's a break going on and they're just hanging out there. They can possibly do something devious or break the law, or maybe not. There can be a possibly threat. They can possibly be a threat. Maybe they're not a threat. Regardless of the fact, they shouldn't be there because that's private property. You as a teacher, as a staff member from afar and safe distance, say, hey, hi guys, this is private property, just so you know. Just so that you don't get in trouble, I think you should exit the area. They don't listen to you. Now they're giggling. Now it looks like they're going to do something messed up. Like I said, it could be a private park and there could be kids there. What if they start taking out their phones? They start recording. They're breaking the law by recording in private area. They're no longer in a public area, right? Plus, they're recording kids. That's very devious. So what do? Depending on the procedure, you'll call 911, the principal, or security, depending on the level of threat. You call the director, but let's say the director ain't picking up of your school, you call security, because they're still not a physical threat. They're just loitering, being devious. They're not hurting anybody yet. They shouldn't be there, but they're there. You call security, hey, yo, John, this is Miss Sampson. And I caught some trespassers sitting in the bench in the park during recess. They're still there. I let them know that this is private property and they're still here. Now they're pulling out their phones and I don't know if they're recording or they're on Facebook or whatever. Is there anything you can do about it? Okay, security will respond and then they'll act accordingly depending on their procedures. But you as a teacher don't know what security will do and what your options are to help get these people out of there if you don't talk to security, if you don't know what security's role is in that post. Now I want to use trespassing for another example. That's not really trespassing. Let's talk about restraining orders. I worked at a school where sometimes people would get divorced. Sometimes there was AS, there was KS, the kids version of it, right? People get beat up in relationships from time to time. It's unfortunate. It's reality. And sometimes security will have to separate people. Let's say you have John and Stacy. They're going through an ugly divorce. They don't like each other. They're enemies to death, right? And they have a custody situation. They have split custody. John or Stacy has to pick them up on Friday because it's their weekend. And they came on a Thursday. You're the teacher. You spot this as kids are about to exit the building or the pickups are happening. And you're like, oh, this parent's here on the wrong day. And they have a restraining order on each other. They can't be within 50 feet or something like that. Security may not know about that because it's just it hasn't gotten physical, right? They're not a threat to the child or to the establishment, the school. But you are aware these two people cannot be together. They'll start a show. They'll be loud. It's uncomfortable for everybody. So you call up security and be like, yo, this parent is coming through the A spot of the building and it's not their day to pick up their kid. I'm gonna be in the other spot talking to the other parent, distracting them. Can you just say hi to them and tell them and ask them why they're here on a Thursday when they're supposed to be here on a Friday to pick up their kid? You guys security, because you collaborated together. Now they just told you that this parent is supposed to come on Friday, and you'd be like, hey, I don't normally see you on Thursday. What's up? Is there a special event? And they'll be like, Thursday? I thought today was Friday. Oh, I would have ran into this person and then could have probably gone to jail and could have been a show, man. Thank you so much for being observant. Boom. That's how you collaborate security and non-security personnel together, right? You have to talk. But if you don't know what each other's do, you don't know how to work together. Yeah. The next bullet point is possible investigation. Probable cause for an investigation. Now you're saying, hey, yo, Jay, you're not a cop. We called the rent-a-cops for a reason. We have cop-like duties sometimes depending on the post and procedures. Let's say you work in a school. You're walking down the hall, and in the bathroom you hear a ch-ch. We all know what ch-ch can possibly be. And depending on the procedure, depending on what type of security you have, armed or unarmed, you might have to call the principal or security, school resource or 911. But you would not know who to call unless you know how everybody works, especially security. You don't want to call security for a situation if they're not armed, right? Possibly. But what if there's an active situation happening? You might still have to call this person up because they have a specific role for certain emergency situations, which we're going to get to later on in the video. Another bullet point, how and when to call security: theft. So I worked at a school and they had a technology area. That technology area had laptops and iPads. These were expensive equipment. They were brand new because the school was new. They had new funding, right? And if you find yourself in that situation, you might wind up having to talk to security and telling them like, hey, do you patrol by any chance? And they'd be like, yeah, I patrol. Why? Well, we just got a box full of new equipment and it's in my classroom. Do you mind patrolling a little bit more frequently during the off hours? And they'll probably update their standard operational procedure, talk to the supervisor, management, whatever, maintenance director, whoever they have to talk to, be like, I'm going to pass that forward. Do you mind if I CC you on that request? And they'll probably be like, yeah, no worries. Cool, bet. And that will be a great way to help security fight theft, right? Being conscious. But if you don't ask the questions, if neither of you communicate with each other, you don't know how to adjust the safety protocols and the patrol. Right? Let's keep this video as short as possible. Safety protocols: fire, active, pew, 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 and special events or events. So safety protocols may change depending on the situation. You might have a shelter in place, a lockdown. You might have a fire emergency. Like, there's a lot of type of trainings that we kids do nowadays in school because the threat level has increased, for many reasons. That's for another video. Let's talk about fire safety. And the building, one of the buildings I worked at, the building had two main zones, two main sections. It was the Section A and Section B. And during fire drills, I'll be in charge of Section B. Section A, maintenance will be in charge of it. And during our fire drills, will have a specific role, just like teachers and other members of staff, as well as students, right? We all had a procedure and a protocols to follow for fire drills. One of the things I had to do was I had to check every classroom. I have to go into the middle of the classroom, look left, look right, say, anybody here? ¿Hay alguien aquí? Say in English and Spanish, just in case somebody got left behind during the drill. And then I'll close the door. That was their fire procedure for that building, right? Maintenance will do that on the A and zone A. I'll do it on zone B. But let's say you were a teacher, you don't know that, and you have a classroom of 25 kids, and you're missing one. You're outside in your safe zone area, lined up with your student. You only count 24. Depending on what type of teacher you are in the situation, you might be like, I don't find Timmy. I think he's still in the burning building. Let me go in there and try to do something about it. Meanwhile, people like me are still in the building. All you have to do is call me on the radio and be like, yo, I can't find Timmy. Well, what classroom was it? 2A. I was just there. There was nobody there. Maybe he's in the bathroom. I'm going to check the bathroom right away. I check the bathroom. Timmy's there. Boop, boop, boop. Save the day. Hero. Parade. Everything. Ta-da! Let's talk about, but you won't know that. You won't know how to make the call if you don't talk to security about it, right? For fire safety. That's just one example. Let's talk about active shooters, man. Active shooters is no joke, and 80% of security are not armed. And teachers, they think their security staff might do something about active shooters. And when you're unarmed, there's very little things you can do. But depending on the protocol and procedures, you can still save some people and divert injuries, right? Like let's say, for example, you have a building with 5 sections. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's say the active situations happen on the section 5, where my pinky is, right? And you got the guard who's patrolling at that time or has a booth in the number 1 section of the building. Like I said, remember, this building is split up into 5 sections. Depending on how the building is shaped and how the zones are created, right? And something's happening as a teacher or staff member, you can call security and say, hey, we have an active situation happening in the 5th area of the building. Security can possibly go to the 1st, 2nd, 3rd sections of the building and tell people, hey, evacuate through this section. It could be done over the radio, because in the building I worked at, even teachers had radio. It could be done on the intercom. It could be done via massive text. You don't know, but something could be done. Information could be shared that quickly, right? Sometimes it could be security. Sometimes it'll be the director, because they have more instant access. They have like these I forgot what it's called, but it's like they could text everybody massive text right away. And they could say, hey, we have a shelter in place for section 5, lockdown. Section 1 to 3, exit, right? That's just an example of the way things can go down, how you can save lives during an active shooter situation, even if your security is unarmed, right? It's just the truth, right? Special events in general. Special events could be report card, assemblies, seminars. It could be parties, right? It could be graduations. It could be school trips. Regardless of the fact, during those times that are not normal in your school or location, the protocols for safety may change. The threats may change. For example, on an open school day, let's say you're going to have a whole bunch of strangers entering the building at once so they can get a tour to see if they want to sign up the kid in that school. You might have a guard booth where people have to check in their IDs because they're strangers. But you might not always have that in regular day-to-day situations, right? Like the protocols change depending on the event. Say there's a sporting event in your school, like you're gonna let a lot of strangers come in. Depending on the time, depending on the venue, you might have to use a wand. You might have to do some pat downs. You don't know. As a staff member, you might want to ask security, what's the safety procedures like? So you could be better informed, and then you could collaborate. And the last one, definitely call security for violence. Now, there's different levels of threats of violence. For example, will you call security for a student that threw a shoe at you? Yes and no. Let me explain. If the student is a kindergartner, no, you won't. You talk to their parent, you'll deal with the kid. You take away his favorite toy. I don't know. Now, if this student of yours is in college, now the threat has increased. Depending on the situation, you might exit with all your students but that one student out of the classroom. The cops may be called. So talk to your security to know what type of threat level they can resolve and how they're going to do it and what you should do. And you're going to come up with little scenarios and little training tips and stuff like that. So those are my 5, points on when to call security, how to work with security for security personnel and non-security personnel. Definitely use this training video for your staff members so they can get a better idea. And even if you don't use this video to present it for whatever reason, there's some good points here. You can articulate it, take some notes, and then you can present it to your team. That's that, guys. If you found value in this video, press like. If you want me to make a custom video for your organization and your team, let me know. I can save you some serious hours and some serious dollars, right? Take care of yourself, love yourself, get some training, wear some real PPE. Ciao. Lo quiero mucho. And like, comment, subscribe, baby. Woo!